received a question that's honestly it's asked pretty commonly and in a variety of ways, but I think it's worth talking through. So the question is: taking a class with you and Nick in a few months. Has dabbled with dots, but probably have 99% of the time on irons. Wondering if I could get more out of the class using a dot, or if I'd be better sticking to what I'm more familiar with. Thank you. The other question, or the other way this gets sometimes worded is, somebody will come to class and they brought two guns, one they perceive as better, or example, they have a Glock and a 2011. The guy's like, oh, I figured I'd work on the fundamentals like the first day with a Glock, and the second day I'm going to work with the 2011 because of whatever reason. It's marksmanship's too easy with the 2011. It'll be harder with the Glock. Fill in the blank. So the important part I think to understand is that the expectations in your capabilities change based on the gear you have. With the dots to irons, not quite. I mean, yeah, dots are a little bit easier to shoot, and especially at distance. So most people are going to shoot a little bit better with dots. But if irons is what you carry, have, compete with, then I would just shoot irons. I wouldn't buy a dot specifically for the class, but if you're planning on switching to a gun with a dot, just do it now. So whatever gear or equipment you take to class, just whatever the gear you like practicing, you compete with, that's the stuff I recommend you bringing. I don't particularly love the idea of switching guns between class days, just because like the weight, if you have to, if a gun breaks, you have to switch. That's one thing. But otherwise, like the weight, the balance, the way it points, like the index to find your dot, is going to be a little bit different. So the example of a Glock to a 2011, the way they index is very different. So if you get very trained or accustomed to finding your Glock, red dot, when you just draw the Glock and the dot's right there and you're able to shoot, you practice with that for 750 rounds day one. Day two, you come out of the range and you have a 2011, and then it's gonna have a bit of a different index. You have a thumb safety now to deal with. The recoil impulse is going to be different. I just don't love any of that. Instead, it's not about like using a piece of gear to make you better or worse the class, because if the gun's capable or you're more capable, not just like a jerk, you're not really going to impress me, at least me, with any kind of gear you have. I mean, I'm like, hey, that was really good, but now go faster. Now get farther back from the target. Now push a little bit. Because it's not like there's ever, in any class, it's not like there's a high score that once you have obtained that, you're done. If you're shooting a really tuned up race gun or a fancy like an Atlas or Staccato 2011, then the expectations are like, hey, go faster. You know, the targets get farther away. You're pushed to try to do more. If it's a stock Glock 17 with iron sights, then of course the feedback's still going to be go faster, get back distance from the target. But the gun's going to be like shooting the doubles drill, rapid fire pairs. That gun is going to behave differently than a super tuned 2011 does if you're shooting doubles at 15 yards or 20 yards. The better gun is probably going to be a little bit more capable, or as a compensator, you're going to be able to shoot the gun faster, just due to maybe the weight of the trigger pull or the weight of the gun or the way it's tuned or sprung or fill in the blanks. So to answer the original question, if like you want to switch to red dots and that's what you plan to start practicing with, don't take a class with me or anybody else with like the gear that you don't plan on using long term. Instead, if you're thinking, hey, within the next 6 months, I'm going to switch from iron sights to a red dot. If you have the money, just do it now. That way the gun's already zeroed and you have a little bit of time with it, so you at least know it works and you're comfortable with it. That puts you in a good spot to learn, and that's the gun that you want to continue to build your skill with or get up to speed with. That's the gun I would take the class with. If you're just going to be like a lifelong iron shooter, or you shoot one of the practical shooting games where iron sights are appropriate for the division or required for the division, then use that. That's fine. But I don't love the idea of switching guns between multiple days in class, or sometimes we'll have somebody, if we're doing like a fundamentals and a skills and drills, so 4 days of classes, take the first class with one gun, another gun with the second class. It's totally fine if you want to do that. I just think it puts you in the best spot to train and learn if you stick to one piece of gear and equipment that you're the most familiar with and that you know works, you know it's zeroed, and that you're comfortable with. Because like you don't want to be, well, commonly like the Glock in 2011 thing happens more often than not. And when they switch back and forth with one or the other, whichever one they're more practiced with, the other one, there'll be some amount of drawing the pistol and then needing to do, a little bit of this kind of action, trying to find the dot. And that's just, it's frustrating, and it puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage in class. So you want to pick something that you're familiar with and comfortable with. Whatever gear you like the best or you plan on training with, just bring that stuff. And then, yeah, bring a second gun or a second rig. If it doesn't match your main gun or you don't have two, then bring whatever else you have that's close to it. If you have a holster and extra magazines and a pistol, just in case, on the off chance something, the gun would have a problem or a spring would break or something like that that requires maintenance, then you don't have to worry about it on the range. You could just switch rigs. So hopefully that answers the question. Gives you some stuff to think about. If you have any questions, drop it below.